Okay, today we're going to be interviewing Mark Carney, he founder of the City of Enoch project. We're still waiting for him to join us, but he should be here in a minute.
Okay, did that get me in? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I see you now. I see you. Hi, Mark Carney. How's it going?
It is going good now, I think. Do you have live video feed of me or just a picture?
I'm just seeing a picture.
There we go.
Yes, I see you now.
Okay. All
Awesome.
right. Let's see. Make sure I got all my notes handy. All right. Okay, interview away. Hi. So right now we can only see you on YouTube.
I think so. I think it's delayed by like 3 seconds, but I think
Okay.
you got it. Okay.
Yeah, more than 3 seconds, since I'm still just seeing the still picture of me. There we go. Okay, good. Now we're cooking.
Okay. Now okay, I got this now. So how about you tell us about your City of Enoch project? Just what it's about.
Well, the City of Enoch project is a dream or a vision of building a vast city in space to take from Earth orbit and put in Mars orbit and leave it in Mars orbit for 10 years. The City of Enoch will be, oh, let's see here, let me do the screen share thing.
Okay.
Give me a second. Okay, so the City of Enoch will be essentially a gigantic pipe or can-shaped spinning spacecraft, so it'll have Earth equivalent gravity from the centrifugal force inside. And there's two ends, and it's going to be 16.5 kilometers in diameter and 19.5 kilometers long. So it is larger than Mars's smaller moon, and just slightly smaller than Mars's larger moon, Phobos. So it won't be nearly as dense, obviously, because most of the inside is hollow, but it's going to be very gigantic, and it's going to be able to support up to about 150,000 people on an ongoing basis. And in this graphic, what you see is the sun end. There's one end will always be facing the sun, the other end will always be facing away from the sun. And in the sun end, we'll have what we call biomes, which are various climates recreated in, let me see. Okay, I need to, anyway, let's go back to that, sorry. That we created, like we'll have a desert one that'll be the ocean, we'll have a mountainous region, we'll have a tropical rainforest, we'll have maybe a farming belt or a savanna. So we'll have all these different areas, and each area is approximately 6 kilometers deep, and I don't know what the exact figure is wide, but it's I'm going to guess probably in the neighborhood of 3 to 4 kilometers wide. So this is a big area where we can recreate a lot of things. In the biome that I'm most interested in being involved in building will be one similar to the Cascades in Oregon and Washington. It'll be fir trees and pine trees and deciduous trees, mountains and hills and cliffs that you can climb, rivers and waterfalls and streams. And these biomes will be so big that you can actually have climate in them. The air pressure will thin out as it gets closer to the core and be more normal. And so you'll have cold weather, and we can inject clouds, use a humidifier device to inject clouds and get them to rain and do all kinds of cool things. So to a large degree, living in the City of Enoch will be kind of like living on Earth, except that you will have within a few minutes drive of where your home is, you'll have access to all these different habitats. You can go visit a tropical rainforest or a savanna or an ocean with a little island where there's a beach, and you'll be able to surf and do things like that. So all of those things will be in the sun end. The core of the City of Enoch is hollow all the way through, and this will be the docking port. A ship will be able to fly into this, and let me go back to me here. So take just a second. Okay. There we go. So a ship would fly into the hole, into the core, and then docking clamps, if you will, would rise up and grab the ship. The ship would match the rotation of the city and grab the bottom of the ship and pull it down to where whatever the ports on the ship are designed to interlock, so that people and cargo can transfer. So, and we'll even have docks for smaller ships where we can pull the whole ship and then seal up above it and pressurize the air. Since a spinning station has, the closer you get to the core, the lower the gravity. The further out you get, the greater the gravitational effect, the centripetal force. So the Earth equivalent gravity will not be the lowest level. There'll be a level below that, which we call the heavy area, where a lot of the city utilities, water storage, ballasting, and also some recreational facilities and maybe some industrial or commercial facilities will be in that area. And then there'll be the Earth equivalent gravity, and then as you go closer to the core, there'll be an area that's equivalent to Mars, another area that's equivalent to the Moon, and then when you get right next to the core, it will be almost 0G, very close to 0G. So we'll have some nearly 0G areas where people can go play or develop games. I'm sure all kinds of sporting events will develop in 0G and in moon gravity and whatnot. And with this orbiting Mars, people could then fly from Earth or travel from Earth, and 0G is tremendously detrimental to the body. It causes a lot of changes in the body, and when astronauts come back from the International Space Station after 6 months, they have to be carried on a stretcher, and it takes them a while to get back to where their muscles are strong enough that they can do things on their own. And so the people who land on Mars in the early missions, when they get there, even though Mars's gravity is reduced, it's going to take them probably a day or so to get back up enough strength to where they're going to be able to do things. Well, with the City of Enoch, they can come into the City of Enoch and disembark from their travel craft in near 0G and gradually over a period of time work their way down to lower and lower levels, greater and greater gravitational effect levels, so it will be a comfortable, relatively effortless process for them to readjust to Earth equivalent gravity, and they can even then kind of bulk up a bit if they want, go down in the heavy area and work out and get strong. And so then people coming back from Mars, one of my big concerns about the Mars missions that are going to occur before the City of Enoch is built is they're going to get out there, they're going to be weakened by their time in 0G, then they're going to spend a year in a third gravity, and they'll adapt to that, probably relatively quickly, but then when they launch again to come back, they're coming from a third of Earth gravity and then traveling for 6 months back to Earth and hitting full Earth gravity. I'm not 100% sure the human body can survive the stress of full gravity coming from that extended a period of reduced gravity. At least without some serious health consequences. So the City of Enoch will facilitate people being able to adapt back and forth with less stress on the body. And one of the big advantages, and one of the things that motivated me to design this and to work on it as a project, is that from an orbital space station around Mars, you have 150,000 people. And that's men, women, children, the whole gamut. Let's say 20 of them or 25,000 of them are scientists dedicated to studying Mars or developing resources of Mars or building things on Mars. You have 25,000 people who, in about an hour's time, can go from their home to the surface of Mars and can return the same day or a couple of days later from some project they're working on, or a week later, whatever. And you have relatively immediate support within a couple of hours. If there's an emergency, you can have people on the ground on Mars there to help you with whatever's necessary. Whereas the people who travel from Earth to Mars prior to this, they're looking at 18 months to 2 years before help can get to them if something really goes awry. And anybody who's lived long or worked on complicated system knows that if anything can go wrong, it probably will. So the City of Enoch project is mainly intended to support people studying Mars from an orbital position. With something that big, we'll be able to I didn't talk about the dark end. So I talked about the sun end. The dark end will be a gigantic reflecting telescope. It will have an array of mirrors that focus on a central point. So imagine a 16-kilometer in diameter reflecting telescope. From Mars, we will probably be able to see cars moving around on Earth. That's how big that is going to be. And so from we'd be able to see grains of sand on Mars from orbit. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people will be using that telescope for studying deep space, but from that platform, we're going to be able to study Mars at a level of detail that's unimaginable right now. We can have all kinds of scanning, radar, ground-penetrating radar, laser, all kinds of scanning devices on the city scanning as we orbit around it. And so we'll be able to see things in detail. We'll be able to find mineral deposits and water and underground structures, all kinds of things. So people can, from an hour away, they can study something. Oh, that looks like a vein of platinum. Let's go down and check it out. And oh, we found this big vein of platinum running through this old volcanic infusion. Let's set up a robotic mining system to recover that. That's the kind of thing I see being not only possible but practical from a platform like the City of Enoch.
Awesome. So, what kind of technologies do you think we should develop to better support stations like the City of Enoch?
Well, that's kind of what I'm working on right now. Before we can build something this massive in space, we have to build this infrastructure capable of building it. To build an artificial gravity station in space, a circular, the Stanford torus or any kind of spinning station, because of the physics involved, the minimum diameter is 450 meters. That's 4 football fields, and that's more than 4 football fields in length. We do not currently, nor in the foreseeable future, will we have any launch methodology for launching anything even approximating that size. And I designed, when I was first thinking about this, I decided to kind of rough draft what it would take to put it together in segments that could be lifted on using existing launch technology. And it was going to take over 200 launches to build a single ring, torus-style ring. If each launch only cost $100 million apiece, not including the development and construction and testing cost of each component that it built, that would be a couple of $1 billion just to launch something like that into space. And we don't have the technology yet to do that. A lot of people have ideas about coupling things in space, sending up a ship to go to Mars in various sections, but we haven't actually done that. And if anybody's played with the Kerbal Space Program, they know if you don't build things right, they break apart under the thrust. Excuse me. Under the thrust of the rockets. So everything has to be built and tested before it can be sent up. So building a spinning space station using components from Earth, even with SpaceX's reusable rockets, is probably not going to be a very practical process for a long time until the launch technology improves massively and the other stages in developing things for space, until that gets advanced to the point where we can launch fairly large things. So that leaves us with the need to build the City of Enoch and most of the precursor stations that would be built to build the city and to mine the materials necessary. We need to build them from rocks floating around in space. And while space is relatively empty, for every 10-kilometer, let's see if we can get it over here. For every 10-kilometer diameter asteroid, there's 1,000 1-kilometer asteroids, and for every 1,000, or 1,000 meter asteroids. There's 1,100 meter, and then 1,000 meter, and then and so the smaller they are, the more of them there are. And when you get down to a meter in diameter space rock, there's gazillions, literally, probably at least trillions that pass through Earth's orbit. Every year there are several major meteor showers where Earth's path orbit crosses through the orbit of a debris field from a comet. And while most of the materials that come from comets may or may not be usable for building something like the city, approximately 5%, I think, one meteorite in 20 that hits the Earth's atmosphere is an iron-nickel meteorite, and one meter in diameter iron-nickel meteorite weighs about a ton, is about a ton and a half of steel. So that's a lot of building material for use in space. And of course, the other ones, the ones that aren't iron-nickel, the ones that are chondrite or stony iron, those materials can be used for glass and for shielding material. Basically, we can take the materials, grind it into a powder, mix it with a substrate, and create an engineered rock foam that we'll have around the outer hull. The outer hull of the City of Enoch will be probably 30 meters thick, maybe more, of engineered foam. So it will have plastic in it because polystyrene compounds absorb radiation better than solid things do. But 100 foot of rock and polyurethane will provide protection against just about any source of spaceborne radiation, as well as from impacts from smaller objects, something that's too small to be practical to try and dodge. Moving the City of Enoch is going to be a huge issue because it's the size of a small moon. But so it's going to be very slow moving. It's like a gigantic ship. But we will be able to avoid any asteroids or anything that looks potentially damaging. And we'll be able to replace, if we get hit by something and it damages the outer hull, will be this engineered rock foam, and inside of that will be 10 meters thick of solid steel. So, nothing is going to get through to the people inside. If we damage a section of the outer hull, we can build more and replace it. The whole city is kind of designed to be designed so that things will be relatively easy to repair and replace. And it will be 3D printed. So technologies that we're working on right now, the first step to me is there's going to be two craft that I'm going to work on designing and put up first. One is what we call a satellite wheel, which is a toroid, Stanford toroid style spinning space station with a central hub where on either side of the axis where craft can dock, and then inside the ring we can run all kinds of experiments, and we can use technology developed on Earth because it will be spinning. People wouldn't be able to be on it, and probably animals not either, because it will be spinning too fast. But there's this thing called the Coriolis effect that makes you sick if you're spinning more than 2 RPM. So this will be spinning at about 7 it's either 7 or 17, I don't remember the exact number. It'll be spinning way too fast for people to ever get in it, but we can run experiments, we can build 3D printers and processing equipment on Earth without having to specialize it for the space microgravity environment. It'll be Earth equivalent gravity, which will reduce the work necessary to create a device that will work in space. Right now, if you want to do something in space, you have to figure out how to do it in zero gravity, which is very complicated, because you have to take into account all kinds of forces that we pretty much ignore here on Earth, because we have a dominant force that controls a lot of things and that we take advantage of in devices that we create. If you created a car for space, the wheels aren't going to touch anything, or if they do, it'll bounce you away from, whatever it is. Even if you try to build a plane, the dynamics would be different, because the plane has to be upright in order to control the direction of the lift from the wings. So yeah, designing things for microgravity is much more complicated than designing them for on Earth. So we get the things into the satellite wheel, and we can test things to make sure they work. We can test the docking system, do some experiments with ballasting the satellite wheel to keep it from wobbling, and that sort of thing. And at the same time that we send up the satellite wheel, we also want to send up what we call the harvester drone. And the harvester drone will be a robotic craft using primarily ion drive to chase meter in diameter and smaller rocks in space from meteor showers or however we track them down, and capture them and bring them back to the satellite wheel, where they'll be unloaded and then processed. And with those materials, some of those will be sent back to Earth for people to, people want asteroids and meteors to study and to own and whatnot, so that will be a means of generating some income early on. But the main purpose will be to find and capture an iron-nickel one, a meteorite, and start building structural members for a larger spinning station, one that's large enough for humans to live in. The first one planned will be kind of a hammerhead, two hammerheads out on the end, and then a ring where you will have basically half Earth gravity on the main ring, and then there'll be the hammerheads, which will be, you'll sleep at night and do stuff in full Earth gravity on a daily basis, so you won't suffer much effects from the reduced gravity, but your work environment will be in at half Earth gravity. So that only has to be a little over 200 meters in diameter, that part of the ring, and then the hammerheads will be where people live. So that's the stage one wheel. Once that's built, it will be a lot bigger, obviously, than the satellite wheel, which will only be, I don't know, I think it's like 16 meters in diameter, something like that. Anyway, in the larger one, from there we'll be sending up from Earth, we'll be sending more harvester drones to collect bigger and bigger space rocks, and those will be taken to the stage one wheel, and there they will manufacture the components to build the stage two wheel, which will be or stage two disc, I guess I should call it, which will be large enough for people to live in the whole outer part with Earth equivalent gravity. It won't be as big as the City of Enoch. It will probably only be maybe 500 meters in diameter, maybe a little bit more, but it'll be a disc, and it'll be relatively thick. See, it has to be all the diameter and the length of a spinning object in space have to be very similar, or it will wobble and precess, and shift and even shift its axis. So there's a ratio that it has to be. So if it's 500 meters in diameter, it's probably going to have to be approximately 550 to 600 meters long. So it'll be huge, and a lot of people will be able to live there and work there, and their job will then be to take more of the materials, and they'll start building bigger and bigger harvester drones there. Those will be brought back, build the city builder discs, which will be 16.5 kilometers in diameter, but only maybe 500 or 600 meters thick. But they'll join together, and then they will 3D print the City of Enoch between them while they're spinning. and that's kind of the plan for the infrastructure to build it. And so as the sections of the city get finished, people will be coming up from Earth constantly and moving in and doing the internal finishing in each section as it's sealed. And it'll take several years to build the whole City of Enoch. And it'll take even more years to build all the precursor infrastructure necessary to build it. Once it's finished, there'll probably be about 120,000 people in it, families. That equates to roughly 30,000 to 40,000 families or households. And then that will leave its parking orbit, which will probably be at L3 or L4, Earth Sun L3 or L4, and then it'll go from there out to orbiting Mars and spend a decade at Mars. And during that time, we'll take one of the city builder disks with us, with the city as we go out, and from that we can 3D print another a mirror image of that city builder disk, because they're mirror imaged, and then that can then go out to the asteroid belt and start harvesting some really large asteroids and building cities or building larger craft of the same general design.
Awesome. And you mentioned that the City of Enoch could support Martian colonies on the surface. How about you tell us more about how that could work?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand your question.
Sorry, I said you did mention that the City of Enoch could support colonies on the surface. How about you tell us some more about that?
Right. So, yeah, as things are right now, like with Mars 1, they're talking about sending people to Mars and leaving them there. They're going to have to be resupplied from Earth every time Earth is close, or they're going to die. They probably are going to die anyway. But it takes a lot to support a human being, an individual. There's air. We have to recycle everything. You have to grow food. You have to have shelter, pressurization, and all the other aspects. And most of the systems we use on the International Space Station right now we are still shipping water up to the International Space Station. How long has it been up there? 20 years or more? But it's a closed system. Where does that water go? Well, they're not using an intelligent system for managing their water. All the water, it can evaporate and be condensed back and made usable. You can basically distill anything that has water in it that would normally be waste. So we have to develop systems that support a closed loop environment, which the City of Enoch will be on a sufficient scale that will have all kinds of biomes, all kinds of support for life. As the city is orbiting Mars, relatively close orbit, it wouldn't be the same as low Earth orbit, but a relatively close orbit, so we'll go around fairly quickly. So anybody that's on the surface will have constant communication with people in real time. There's no time delay. We'll have a constellation of communication satellites around the planet so that continuous communication will be available. We will even be able to do telepresence from the City of Enoch to robotic devices on the planet. So you can have people doing real-time control of robotics instead of trying to program everything in advance and make sure that the robot doesn't screw up because you gave it a program and then 20 minutes later when it finally executed there's a minor mistake or whatever. I mean, we lost one of the rovers. Opportunity? No. Spirit. We lost the Spirit rover because it got stuck in the sand, and they couldn't figure out how to get it up to a favorable tilt, so it couldn't get enough sunlight during the winter months to keep the batteries charged. So that kind of thing isn't going to happen if you have someone there in real time to make corrections. And oh, the wheel's starting to slip. Let's stop it right now instead of having it spin until the computer notices that the motor's overheating. And of course, if anything happens, you have support right there, and you'll have scientists at home with their families who will fly down to the surface for the day to do their work and fly back home. It'll be a bit of a commute, a couple of hours either way, or an hour. Probably the commute will only be about an hour going either way, but well, maybe 2 hours. But the point is, you can commute to the surface of Mars. Sorry about that. You'll be able to commute to the surface of Mars and do your work, and you'll have access to any kind of equipment you need. We'll be able to manufacture anything that's needed for doing development work. We need a bulldozer. Okay, we'll put one together and we'll drop it down there, and you can start or a backhoe or any kind of heavy equipment. Or we're going to build a base, and so we can prefab a lot of that in the city and then drop it down to the planet. And have robotics set up prefab housing or habitats or whatever. And so from there we'll be able to do construction sort of like what we're doing now between Earth and the International Space Station. We can communicate with them pretty much any time. If they need something, we can send it up within a few weeks usually. It takes a little while to arrange a launch, but with the City of Enoch, we will have craft ready to. Oops, I got to quit hitting the microphone. We'll have craft ready to go at any time to the surface, and so we'll be able to take supplies down and also bring materials back up if there's something that a scientist on Earth wants some specific kind of sampling. Say we go down with a coring machine into the bed of Hellas Planetation, which is the deepest area on Mars. And so if we did a coring of the ground underneath that, we'd probably produce some pretty interesting results. And we could ship that back to Earth. Bring it back up to the City of Enoch and then ship it to Earth. Or we could study it there and send them the video, the streaming video. Although there's, a 20-minute delay between here and Mars, I think?
It varies.
Yeah, that's true. It varies depending on the time of year. Or what our relative position is to the sun. I mean, there's a period of time when there's no communication. When Mars is on the opposite side of the sun from us. But yeah, so the real-time activity from the people living in the city on the planet and about the planet can occur, and that will speed the process up of studying Mars and doing development work. And since we'll have craft that are out collecting asteroids and bringing them back to the City of Enoch for building materials and for processing, we'll already have the technology in place for possibly capturing a comet to add water and or gases if we determine that's appropriate. Personally, I think Mars is never going to be able to hold on to an atmosphere long enough for it to make sense for us to invest the time and effort in trying to build an atmosphere on Mars. But if we wanted to, or if we needed, materials that aren't available and volatiles that aren't available on Mars, we can go and capture a comet and bring that back and make those available. So we'll have a lot of technology in place, And also, once it's in orbit, the city builder disk will be on its way. It will break loose from the city, and it will head out to the asteroid belt. From there, another 6-month journey, and the people in that will then they'll find asteroids of an appropriate size, and they'll mine those asteroids and build craft and whatever else. I mean, whoever runs the city builder disks is going to make a fortune in space, because they will be the primary providers of building materials and of craft and whatnot, I believe, for the solar system for a long period of time.
Right. And just one last question. What do you think life would be like on the City of Enoch?
Life in the City of Enoch is going to be pretty idealistic. Like I mentioned before, you have a number of biomes there, so you can go pretty much anytime you want and visit. You can go to a savanna and look at the elephants and the giraffes and whatever else lives in the savanna. You can go to a tropical rainforest for the afternoon. You can go to the ocean and surf and fish and do stuff like that. So a lot of the things you do here on Earth you'll be able to do there, but you'll also have access to various gravity environments to work in and to play in. And with a city of 120 to 150,000 people, it's not like living in a small town. You're not going to know everybody. There'll be a lot of social interactions and whatnot. And of course, it will be very, very exciting because of all the science and space technology that everyone there will have access to. I mean, the 16.5 kilometer diameter reflecting telescope that we'll be using, we'll be able to see some really remarkable stuff. I believe that we will be able to see deep enough in space to disprove the Big Bang Theory. Because we will be able to see light from more than 15 billion years ago, from galaxies more than 15 billion years old. And we'll be able to actually see planets orbiting other stars, at least in our galaxy. Whereas right now we only know they're there because we see variations in light as they pass between us and the star that they're orbiting around. And maybe we catch spectral glimpses of the sunlight from the star going through the atmosphere, bouncing off the surface, and giving us spectral analysis data about those planets. We can't actually see even the dot of a planet or of the reflection of light from a planet around other stars. With the telescope on the end of the City of Enoch, we will actually be able to see the planets about as well as we can see Pluto now, or Neptune. So we'll be able to see some remarkable. We'll be able to see things in the solar system with a remarkable clarity, and the reflectors will not only be reflecting visible light. They'll be set up with sensors for the full electromagnetic spectrum that we can detect and image from. UV, infrared, radar, radio waves, even X-rays or cosmic rays. We'll be able to focus those kind of things. I don't know if you can focus cosmic rays, but all the various parts of the electromagnetic spectrum we'll be able to view with that. So we'll be able to see an incredible amount of detail about the solar system and about our galaxy and about the whole universe, way more than anything we have now. I mean, the James Webb telescope that's going up, I think, in 2016, it's only going to be, I don't know, 25, 30 feet in diameter. It's big. It's big, way bigger than anything we've got in space right now. Now we're talking about things that are just a few feet in diameter. But this will, and that's going to show us some incredible stuff. But this will just the City of Enoch's telescope will bury anything else for what you'll be able to see in space. And how cool would it be to be able to get in a little craft and just go out into zero-G space, fly around for a little bit, look at the stars, and then come home, all inside of an hour or 2 hours, because leaving the city and going into open space is going to be effortless. Or you could go and sit somewhere where there's a port where you can look directly out into space with no atmospheric interference, nothing obscuring your view. And of course, playing in different gravity environments is going to be a lot of fun too, I think. Well, that lasted a little more than 30 minutes, huh?
Yeah, it did. But that was a good interview. Thanks.
You're welcome.